Plato was a philosopher who lived in Athens, Greece from 427 BCE to 347 BCE. His real name was Aristocles, but his broad figure earned him the nickname Platon. Although he was born to a wealthy Athenian family, he fought in the Peloponnesian War at a very young age. Take note that in the Peloponnesian War they did not have access to advanced weaponry, such as guns. This is simply an artistic rendition. What is special about Plato is that in addition to founding the Academy, which was the first institution of higher learning, he was the first Western philosopher whose writings survived over the years. This is critical, as most of what we know about Socrates comes from Plato's writings, in works such as Phaedo and Crito, part of the Dialogues. Plato was the teacher of Aristotle, who was also considered to be one of the founding fathers of Western philosophy. Plato believed that concepts had a universal form, an ideal form. Aristotle believed that the universal forms were not necessarily attached to each object and concept, and that each instance of an object or a concept had to be analyzed on its own. Plato's ideas helped create a foundation for all of the great thinkers that came after him. His work covered a broad spectrum of interests and ideas, such as political theory, morals, science, nature, and mathematics. His work on the use of reason to develop a more fair and just society that is focused on the equality of individuals established the foundation for modern democracy. One of the most significant ideas coming from Plato's teachings is his theory on the true nature of reality. Plato's dualism, his metaphysics, is partially inspired by Heraclitus's logos and doctrine of flux. His metaphysical view was that there is another world, a world of ideas, separate from the imperfect physical world we know through our sense organs. In this world, which moderns often call Platonic heaven, there are forms of everything: circles, airplanes, lollipops, love, and presumably even guacamole. You name it. Plato believed that we can only gain true knowledge through the world of forms, that our real knowledge of the forms must be the memory of our initial acquaintance with the forms in heaven. Therefore, what we seem to learn is in fact just remembering, a theory called recollection. These forms were supposed to be more real than the mere world of matter. For Plato, matter is only shaped by virtue of having some particular form. The immaterial world cannot be grasped or touched. It is considered internal, timeless, and never-changing. The material world, otherwise known as the world of appearance or the visible world, is the world in which we live and understand through sensory experience. This world is ever-changing. Things live, grow, and die. Picture his theory as a blueprint and the object. The blueprint would be the immaterial world of forms because it is the idea of the world. It's not going to change. The object itself is the visible world we live in. Although everything has a form, it may be represented differently from something else with the same form. For example, we have love. That would be a form. It's an idea. It's not something we can actually see. But we visualize and conceptualize it in our material world, as people holding hands or kissing, maybe as a heart or two people embracing. Although we all see love differently, and our interpretations are always changing, the idea of love still exists. An extension of his ideas is the allegory of the cave, a story put forward by Plato that supports his theory of forms. The story concerns human perception. Plato claimed that knowledge gained through the senses is no more than opinion, and that in order to have real knowledge, we must gain it through philosophical reasoning, also known as the world of forms. In the allegory of the cave, Plato distinguishes between people who mistake sensory knowledge for the truth and people who really do see the truth. The story tells of people who live their entire life in the cave, chained to the wall, seeing only shadows, unable to turn their heads. All they can see is the wall of the cave. Behind them burns a fire. Between the fire and the prisoners, puppeteers walk, holding up puppets that cast shadows on the wall of the cave. The prisoners are unable to see these puppets, the real objects that pass behind them. What the prisoners see and hear are shadows and echoes, cast by objects that they do not see. Essentially, their whole idea of reality is just an illusion. Plato used this allegory to help simplify his complex ideas. There are many metaphysical theories that exist, but Plato's dualism is one of the most iconic ones out there.